Second round of the high school football playoffs featured plenty of carnage if you are a team in our coverage area. We went from 7 teams down to just 2. Let's talk about all the games that we had last week. I'm Kyle Parmley, joined by Gary Lloyd today. Under the Lights podcast, we're talking high school football all around the Birmingham area, but also across the state. But Gary, like I said, we had 7 teams left, 5 games, and now there's only 2 standing. We got a few weeks left, but man, it's getting down to it.
Yeah, I mean, carnage is the word, isn't it? And it seemed we'll talk about these games, but we were very close to not having a lot of carnage, and very, very close to having 4 games this upcoming week, but didn't quite work out for some teams, and that's that November heartbreak that we see every year.
Yep. Yeah, as we lead into the Thanksgiving week, we're going to talk about the second round games from last week, kind of give you an update, a rundown, especially where we stand in Class 6A and 7A, like we've been doing the last couple of weeks. But yeah, let's get right into the recaps from last week. Gary, we'll start with the game that you were at. I thought it would be a little bit closer than this, but Hewitt-Trussville dominates Hoover 40-7. They got out early. They scored right before the half to really seemingly put that game away. And just, I mean, all around, really impressive performance for the Huskies to what they win by 5 scores almost.
Yeah, I mean, it was absolute domination. I mean, really from the jump. I mean, they go up 12-0 in a blink. Part of that was Hoover's doing on their, I think it was maybe their second possession. Jonah Winston not quite ready for the snap from their own 10 and in the shotgun, and that ball just sailed right through the end zone. I mean, that ball might be out on I-59 somewhere, but that put Hewitt up 9-0. Then they go down, get a field goal, go up 12-0. Bradley Shaw, as we've talked about the last couple of weeks, he scores again. Hoover's only touchdown of the game, gets in on a 2-yard run to cut it to 12-7. And you thought, okay, maybe we're going to have a game, but Hewitt goes up 19-7, and then I mean it was actually I think it was 19-0 and then 19-7. But Hewitt gets another score and then really piled the thing on, and it just domination in all phases. I mean they out physicaled, they out athletic. They out-coached. They outdid everything against Hoover, which, we know Hoover was a 5-6 team, but you're still not used to seeing that with Hoover High School. But really the defense, like two things that I took away. Hewitt on offense, they could just fall forward and they were gaining 5 yards. I mean, just right up the gut. I mean, it would be a nothing play, and then it was 2nd and 5. So they stayed ahead of the chains, and then on the other side, they really got to Jonah Winston. Maybe mentally. I mean, we talked about last week how he only threw for 50 yards against James Clemens. Well, he only threw for 36 against Hewitt, and that was kind of the talk, or our talk last week was, can that Hewitt secondary, can Jonah Winston throw the ball? Can Hoover have some guys get open? And if so, can the Hewitt secondary defend it? Well, that question got answered. They didn't throw it a ton, but to hold them to 36 yards, there was never a bust, nothing like that. I thought something that was interesting was Michael Igbenogany gets an interception. So you had the brother of an NFL player intercepting the brother of an NFL player, which was kind of unique and one of those weird stats. But the Hewitt defense they absolutely came to play. They were nasty. And, the Hewitt offense, just what can you say? Jackson Melton goes for 101 and a touchdown. Peyton Floyd does what Peyton Floyd does. He still ended up, I think, at maybe $120 on the ground. And that's with a play where I think he took a 19-yard loss trying to make something happen and just fell down. So he runs for a couple scores, throws for a couple. Jadon Loving was huge in the passing game. He took in 9 receptions for 120 yards and a score. So just absolute domination from Hewitt-Trussville. And that was kind of the question coming in was, can this Hewitt-Trussville team on a big stage put it all together? Not get caught in the headlights of, semifinals on the line. You're playing Hoover again, trying to beat a team twice in the same season, which we know, regardless of opponent, is a very difficult thing to do. And they answered that question resoundingly. And that's first 7A semifinals for Hewitt-Trussville since 7A came about in 2014. It's the first time that Hoover has missed it. And I went down that rabbit hole that I like to go down of these stats, and it's the fourth semifinal any classification for Hewitt-Trussville. They made it in 1992 when they made the state championship game and lost, and then made it in 96. So they haven't. This is the first time since 96. None of these kids were born. I mean, I was only 9 years old, something like that. And then Hoover on the other side, they've won at least 2 playoff games every year since 2000. That streak came to an end. That's a wild stat to me. Not just making the playoffs, not just winning 1 game, but winning 2 games every playoff since 2000. So that streak comes to an end. So it was a bit of history on both ends of the spectrum for both teams Friday, and Hewitt looked like a force to be reckoned with. If they play like that again, they've got a real shot this week against Thompson.
Yeah, looking at the numbers, Hewitt outgained Hoover 492 to 186. I mean, that you're not going to lose any games with that kind of yardage disparity. So really, really big win for the Huskies. Have you driven by Hewitt-Trussville Stadium this morning or today? Is the Jumbotron still on?
Well, I joked about that. I kind of joked about it in my game story. I thought that was a decent enough kicker. Usually I like to kicker it with a quote, but I was like, I'm going to go this route and talk about the Jumbotron might still show heading to the semifinals, whatever, on Saturday morning. Well, I was at the Trussville Civic Center Saturday night for another event and left, I don't know, probably 7:30, something like that. So we're 24 hours later, and that Jumbotron was still glowing white and red and black. Husky fast heading to the semifinals, that kind of thing. So I don't know what the weekend power bill is going to be for Hewitt-Trussville Stadium, but I got a feeling whoever cuts that check will be more than happy to pay it this week.
Absolutely. So big win for the Huskies. Good for them to advance, man. It's just they've gotten to the second round 6 times in a row and finally break through to the semis. So we'll see where it goes from there. Let's talk about another game that was happening just down the road. Clay-Chalkville hangs on and beats Mountain Brook 17-13 in the 6A second round. I'll be honest, I did not think Mountain Brook was going to be able to hang around, but look, the simple fact of it is Chris Yeager is one of the best football coaches in the state, and they put together a game plan that was built around great defense and handing Cole Gamble the football. I think Cole Gamble ran it 39 times around there. He might have had 40. I don't know when the game tape is dissected. But, man, the game I was at got out of hand. And so I pulled up the Clay-Chalkville game. I was kind of keeping up with it, watching it a little bit. And I saw the play late in the game where Mountain Brook flushed Jalen Mbakwe out of the pocket, and he has to make an off-balance throw. Mountain Brook picks it off, and you're like, oh, no, they have a legitimate chance to win this ball game in the final minutes. But Clay's defense came up big again. They held Mountain Brook out of the end zone. But, man, this Cougars team, we'll talk about it a little bit more as the week goes, but this playoff path for the Cougars to get back to the state championship game is brutal. And this was just the second hurdle to get there. But, credit to them. They got a really big test for Mountain Brook and were able to pull it out.
Yeah, that's kind of what we talked about previewing that game is, when it comes to playoff time, it's, your best strengths against someone else's best strengths, and whoever can execute and come out on top, may the best man win. And, we knew Mountain Brook wasn't going to get away from Cole Gamble. They had the injury to Clark Sanderson, probably their best receiver. And, you lean on Cole Gamble anyway. You just knew you were going to lean on him more in a game like this, try to compress the game, try to keep Jalen Mbakwe, Mario Craver, those guys off the field. And my God, if it didn't just about work,
Yeah.
and what we said, Cole Gamble's going to touch that ball 35, 40 times. And like you said, it seems like he was on the northern half of that range. So an incredible football game. I know Chris Yeager, I think I saw maybe a tweet or maybe it was just a post-game quote, something like that from him, just about it being an incredible high school football game. And it really seems like it was. And, credit to Mountain Brook for coming in, a little banged up. I mean, everybody's banged up this time of year, but they've had guys, lose the rest of their season and go into a tough place to play against an incredible opponent and have a shot right there at the end. And, if you're Clay-Chalkville, if you've got that defense and you've got, if Jalen Mbakwe can touch a pigskin, you have a chance to win.
Yep.
And that's what happens. So, those tests don't get any easier going into this week, traveling to daggum near Tennessee this week. So, just a really gritty win, a really gritty game, and credit to Clay-Chalkville for coming out on top.
Yep. Cougars move on there. We'll jump back into 7A. The game I was at when I referenced earlier, Thompson beats Vestavia Hills 34-14. This was a ball game at the half. It was 14-14. Felt like either team had a chance to pull it out. And then the third quarter started, and it was all Thompson from then on. I don't even know how to describe. Thompson took the ball to start the third quarter and went 6 plays, 80 yards, if memory serves, in like less than a minute and a half. And it wasn't like a big chunk play. It was, I think there were 4 plays out of those 6 that went for roughly 15 to 20 yards. It was quick and it was deadly. And they never let off the gas after that. Vestavia just could not. They couldn't move the ball after that. They lost the field position battle. Then the route was on. And Thompson moves on to the semifinals yet again. The 4-time defending champs. That's kind of what they do. And just a couple things to notice from that game. I will say, Vestavia limited their mistakes. They didn't turn the ball over like they have in previous meetings against Thompson. They were right there. They played that tempo game that they love, and they were successful at it at times, especially in the first half. But in the second half, Thompson's defense was too good. Freshman quarterback Trent Seaborn was too good. I think at one point I looked up, he had started the game 9 for 9, and the ball wasn't hitting the turf, and he was just dotting receivers right in between the numbers. So Thompson looked really good. Tough end for Vestavia, but shoot, you take their 3 losses. They lost to Thompson twice and to a Hewitt team that is in the semis as well. So a really good season for the Rebels. I don't think they have anything to hang their heads about.
No, it sounds like other than the turnovers or lack of turnovers in this game, this sounds almost identical to that regular season game a season ago where it was almost played to the same score. It sounded like, 34-14. I don't remember the exact score from last year, but it was something like that. It was a 3-touchdown game where, close, tied at the half, and then early second half, Thompson just, puts the pedal to the metal. So just another incredible win for the Warriors. They move on again. And you tell me, you've seen Vestavia obviously a lot more than I have this year. They're going to lose a guy like John Paul Head. You're going to lose Jordan Ross, who, Coach Rob Evans told you after the game you might see in the NFL in a few years. You're losing a talent like that. Where do you see Vestavia Hills? We know they've got numbers, which in any classification, any coach will tell you we need numbers, we need depth, we need guys. It's not just 1 or 2 players; it's having a lot of guys. But where do you see them in the trenches? Offensive line, defensive line. Do they have a bit more that they need to grow? Like do they need to be finding some of these fine dining establishments on Highway 11 and just shoveling it in, or what? What do you see from the trenches?
Well, yeah, Rob Evans mentioned that to me after the game that this senior class, you don't want to you don't want to sound like you're putting a group down or anything like that. But I mean, coming into the year, he didn't think this year's team was going to be as good as last year's team for the simple
Right.
fact that they had lost so much along the offensive and defensive lines. And obviously Jordan Ross from the defensive line, that guy's he's unbelievable. But just as a whole, like the unit lost a lot and they didn't have much coming back. And he, Evans is looking around in the summer like, what are we going to do? Like these guys aren't ready to play 7A football.
Right.
But safe to say that when you have anchors on both sides of the ball, like John Paul Head and like Jordan Ross, to steer the ship, to bring guys along, to be able to make plays that can cover up for some of those deficiencies, that says a lot. And even after the game, Evans mentioned that losing two guys like that anchor a senior class like that really hurts. But like you said, they claim that they're the biggest program in the state of Alabama, numbers wise. And he said there's strength in numbers and they're going to get in the weight room and they're going to find the guys that are going to be able to match what programs like Thompson and even like Hoover have consistently put on the field over the years. And the word he used is ascending. And I think that's what they are. Like, I don't feel any dumber today than I did when we sat here last year at this time and I told you I thought Vestavia was going to win a state championship in the next handful of years. I don't feel any differently about that. So, yeah, they've got some big pieces to fill, but so will everybody else every year.
Yeah.
So this program is definitely headed in the right direction. And obviously, like, we talked about it after the game. It kind of made the rounds on social media about Homewood and Mountain Brook saying that they didn't want to play Vestavia Hills next year because of the gap. And obviously, like, Vestavia doesn't like that because now they're losing two rivals for we don't know how long. But at the same time, you also understand it from the other side of like Homewood and Mountain Brook are 6A programs that at this point in time they struggle to stay on the field with a team like Vestavia. So all that being said, like, yeah, this program is still trending in a very positive direction, even after a 9-3 year.
Yeah, and I hate the rivalry thing. I mean, I'll get on my soapbox. So I don't know the exact reasons. It sounds like you're hinting at it a little bit, and that would make the most sense to me. An ascending 7A school with numbers, and a 6A school doesn't want to. Where is their benefit to playing a game like that? Well, the benefit is its tradition and its culture and its rivalries. I don't care if it's 6A, 7A, 2A, AISA. I don't care. Like Mountain Brook and Vestavia, especially. I don't have the rivalry in front of me, but they've played something like 50 something straight years. I don't care if you're 6A, 7A. Make that work. And I don't know I know they're rivals with Homewood as well. I don't know how many years in a row and what that history is. I'm not looking at it, but come on. Like some of these things are bigger than, hey, we're about to lose some guys while you're ascending and we don't see, a benefit to playing this game for the next 2 years or whatever it might be. Like I've seen this too much over here on my side of town, that. And like the simple of it is that these rivalries, whether it be a Mountain Brook Vestavia, whether it be a Homewood Vestavia, a Hewitt-Trussville, Clay-Chalkville, whoever, they are bigger to communities. If you want to get, just in the numbers, they're bigger to, gates at some places that these schools have than, hey, y'all beat us 35-10 this year and we weren't quite competitive. Don't shy away from it because of that. Play the game. They mean a lot to these communities. Like, I see you hiding your face. I'll take whatever comes my way after this, but play the games. Come on.
Gary sounds like somebody that is speaking from experience covering the ending of the Hewitt-Clay rivalry.
Play the game.
Hey, I want to see it just as much as anybody. So we'll see how all that shakes out.
Well, I mean, what are you telling your team too? Like, hey, like if it's because of the numbers, right? Like, let's just say it's because of the numbers. Like Vestavia is ascending. They're playing, they're winning 9 games now. They're a 7A program. They got 140 kids on the sideline. Whatever. What are you saying to your kids? Like, hey, y'all are going to be the ones where this rivalry stops because we're not quite there. If I'm on the team, I mean, maybe I'm thinking about this too hard, and I probably am, and I'm not a coach, and I don't have that know-how. Let that be known. I am not Ben Bergeson. I am not Chris Yeager. They have, and I haven't spoken to them. They have reasons that are greater than my apparent outrage. But I mean, it's bigger than that. And if I was a kid on one of these teams or any team that's a part of one on, that's choosing to not play the rivalry game anymore, I would feel a little slighted. That's all.
You feel better?
If they play the games, I'll feel better.
All right. I don't really know how you transition from that to the other 2 games that we have to talk about, but let's try it anyways. John Carroll, as much as it stings, they lost to Gunnersville 20-17, led the whole game, gave up a late touchdown that cost them. And they're, if you talk to Coach Will Mara, he's going to tell you there's a few plays in that game that they'd love to have back. And if they go just a little bit differently, then John Carroll wins the game, and we're talking about another triumphant win. But nevertheless, it's heartbreaking. The way that they lost, you jump out ahead, you get an early field goal, lead the whole game. And then that late score does them in. But, hey, man, the way that they played this year, where they end up 9-3. I mean, that's John Carroll has not been that in a long, long time, and I think there's plenty to be proud of. You never know when you're going to be back to this level. You don't just assume that it's going to happen again next year. So I know that they're going to enjoy this and really relish it because they've seen it's hard to get to that level for that program. So big kudos to them on a great year.
Yeah, I mean, you use the word stings, and that's the word I wrote down. Not just that they led the whole game, and the game-winning touchdown was with like a minute 20 left or something like that, and it came on a 4th down. Like, all of those things just make that sting bite just a little bit sharper. But I also wrote down that this team changed the perception of John Carroll football because they have been I won't say a doormat, but they've been down and down hard for a lot of years, and this team was just like, whoa, every week. And your only losses are to Gunnersville, who's now 11-1, Ramsey, who's beating the doors off of people, and Pleasant Grove, who's beating the doors off of people. Like you said, it's nothing to hang your head over. I know their heads are down right now, but in time, I think you'll probably, if you go through the history of John Carroll, season by season, I think you're going to have, more than likely, you're going to have 1973 state championship team, and then maybe this team right underneath it. That's a program changing group, and I know it's tough for them right now, but I think in time, they'll see that they'll be invited back, they'll come back, they'll see accolades, they'll see things about this group on the walls and in the halls and stuff like that, and this season transcends more than just this one heartbreaking loss for sure.
Absolutely. So big props to them. Carson McFadden, really great job as the team's quarterback. He was, a lot of fun to talk to after that big win over Homewood to start the year, and just getting to be around some of those guys as the year went on was awesome. So we'll see if the Cavs started something or if this is just kind of a season to remember type of deal. We will see. Finally, Briarwood, another program with a lot to be proud of this year. They fall to defending 6A champs Saraland 51-14. This game kind of went as expected. Saraland jumped out early, never had any doubt. Saraland's a really good football team. I'm just going to go ahead and put that out there. I don't know if people are aware, but yeah, Saraland's awesome. Briarwood finishes 6-6. They were back in the playoffs after missing last year, and who knows? This could be the start of another really long playoff run for the Lions after 29-year streak ended last year. This could be year one of another long one because that program is in great shape. They'll do this whole thing where they lost a lot of key seniors, and those guys did great work this year, and they'll have a new class step up and do it all again next year. So really good stuff from the Lions. I know they would have hoped Friday went better, but you really couldn't expect anything differently with that caliber opponent on the other side.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was going to say is Briarwood, I think, turned the ball over 4 times against Saraland. And, any game, you can't turn the ball over 4 times and expect to win. But honestly, against Saraland, unless you're literally Clay-Chalkville or, maybe Hillcrest or someone like that, I don't know that you can turn the ball over 0 times and expect to beat Saraland. I mean, they're just, we talked about it last week. Their closest game against an Alabama opponent is like a 29-point win. I mean, they're not just winning games. They're just beating the snot out of people. And it doesn't matter if you're Briarwood or anybody else that's been on that schedule. That's until Saraland, maybe, against that Hillcrest team upcoming this week or, down the road against potentially a Clay-Chalkville or someone like that. It seems like they're just going to keep rolling. And I think you're right about Briarwood. Whether they, I don't know. We've got some time before reclassification, whether they stay 6A, whether they potentially drop back to 5A. It does feel like this was a team that was like, all right, let's get back on the right track, get back in the playoffs and start a new streak. So that's what it feels like to me from Briarwood. So a really nice bounce back season to get back into the playoffs, finish 500 with, first year starting quarterback after, Christopher Vizina held that job for so long. So Lions seem like they're on the right track.
Yeah. And I mean, if they do drop down to 5, and we won't know until middle of December, but you just had 4 years in Class 6A where you won almost 30 games. I mean, that's really impressive for that program, and we'll see where they go from there. So, all right, to wrap up, let's go through what's left in the 6A and 7A brackets. 7A, we'll talk about this game a little bit later on in the week, so be sure to catch our next show. But Hewitt-Trussville is going to head to Thompson in the 7A semifinals. And on the other side, Central Phoenix City will host Mary Montgomery. Central handled Auburn 49-21. Central is just, they're a machine right now. And I don't know, it's this Mary Montgomery team, we talked about them on our show with Jeff last week about they just kind of come out of nowhere this year. Senior quarterback, great defense. Enterprise was up on MGM 10-0. And Mary Montgomery scored 13 points in the last 5.5 minutes or so to win the game. So really impressive comeback from MGM to pull that one out. Gary, we'll talk about those 2 games next week, but do you have any early thoughts on those 2 semis? They both sound like pretty good games.
I think one of them sounds like it's the potential to be a really good game, and I think that's Hewitt-Trussville Thompson. I mean, I'll eat crow for sure, but I think Central Phoenix City's gonna keep rolling. I think that MGM, they've been hanging by a thread already these playoffs. Not that they haven't played great teams, they have. I mean, Dothan's a good team, and they beat them 21-13, and then it took 13 points in the last 5.5 minutes to beat Enterprise 13-10. But Central Phoenix City is a different animal, and I think that dream season probably comes to a screeching halt this week against Central. And I don't mean that in any kind of way of disrespect. I think Central's just that good.
Special shout out is in store. So we do have that Day of the Red Devils that I predicted a few weeks back still in play. So Central beat Prattville in the flag football semifinals last week. They also look like a machine, like their boys football team. So
You got to say who they're going to play.
Central is playing Vestavia in the state championship game. It'll be the afternoon of December the 6th at Bryant-Denny before the 7A football championship. So I am excited to be there for that. That's going to be a lot of fun. All right, 6A bracket. Here's what we have left. Saraland hosting Hillcrest Tuscaloosa. Benjamin Russell hosting Pike Road. Parker hosting Gadsden City. And Clay-Chalkville heading to Muscle Shoals. Wow, Saraland Hillcrest could be a state championship game, and nobody bat an eye. Muscle Shoals, Clay-Chalkville both undefeated, and then you've got those other 4 teams in the middle there that have benefited from good draws, and 2 of those are going to be in the semis next week.
Yeah, I mean, Benjamin Russell. We talked about it on that one of these playoff preview podcasts with Jeff Allison from Alabama 7A football, Alabama 6A football, and I don't know. Benjamin Russell to me was as sneaky of a team as you can be as a region champ. It's just easy to get lost in the 6A bracket because it's just so good. But I think Benjamin Russell's got a really good shot, especially playing at home against Pike Road. I think they're just incredibly explosive. Malcolm Simmons, Gabe Benton, kind of running that show. To get to a semifinals against a Saraland or a Hillcrest, I mean, those 2 games are just incredible matchups. And then, Parker Gadsden City, I think, is a really fun, interesting matchup. That Parker defense has been so good, and the Gadsden City offense has been really, really good all year. And then they come out, on top in a, grinded out kind of game, 22-15 over, perennial gritty team Hartselle. So maybe Gadsden City has something in store for Parker. We'll see. And then, Muscle Shoals, Clay-Chalkville, just, that one's going to be intense.
Yeah, for sure. So that'll do it for this show. Thanks, guys, for watching. We will be back later in the week to talk about the games upcoming. Gary, I guess we'll see you in a few days for Thanksgiving.
What are we having? It depends what's on the menu.
Well, there will be no cranberry sauce. That stuff is disgusting.
I'm on board so far.
Turkey needs to be done well. It can be dry really easily.
I'm still on board.
Okay. Ham's fine. Whatever. Ham's good.
I'm with you.
And then the rest, good sides are key. There's only so much room on the plate. So some good dressing is top notch. That's very disappointing to see you shake your head.
I'm out.
Let's see what else. I mean, you can't go wrong with mac and cheese. That's always fantastic.
Yeah.
Black-eyed peas are fine, I guess.
That's fine.
I don't know. Just let's keep the healthy foods out of the picture.
I mean, I had this discussion with a while back with Brandon Herring, the strength and conditioning coach at Hewitt-Trussville, and both of us think Thanksgiving food is overrated. I am one of those people that like. I
mean, you're wrong, but it's okay.
Well, that's fine. I'll take that. No pun intended. I'll eat that. But if it was so good, I know it's tradition, and we've learned that on this podcast. I'm a tradition proponent, but tradition has to be good, and Thanksgiving food is a tradition that's not so good. We would eat it more than once a year if it was so special, if it was so good. And you know what? Give me a ribeye on Thanksgiving. Give me fried chicken on Thanksgiving. I don't want I'll make my peace with the ham. The turkey, I'm with you. It has to be done right. But give me better options, and I'll be more on board.
How do we feel about deviled eggs?
Not good.
You're missing out, man. All right, well, that's our playoff recap show. We will be back later in the week, so be sure to check in. Once again, we'll talk about 6A quarters, 7A semis. So Gary, I'll see you then.
Sounds good.